If you're working in generative video right now, you know exactly what I'm talking about. You spend, I don't know, 30 seconds crafting this perfect prompt. You wait a minute for the render, and what comes out is often, well, it's breathtaking.
It is. Cinematic lighting, fluid motion, a character staring right at you in high def.
A masterpiece, but a silent one. There were these stunning high-definition ghosts just haunting your hard drive.
That's a perfect way to put it. Ghosts.
And we've been stuck in that silent film era for, what, the last 2 years? The frustration wasn't just the silence. It was the next step. I always called it post-production hell.
Oh, yeah.
You're digging for stock music that sort of fits the mood. Then you're jumping over to 11 Labs to generate a voice track. And then you're in the editor for a half hour, stretching waveforms, just praying the lip movements kind of line up.
And it just kills the creative momentum.
Completely.
Well, that entire workflow, that whole chaotic post-production phase you just described, it ended this week. The source material we're looking at, it really nails it by calling the arrival of Kling 2.6 the Talkies moment for generative video.
That comparison is so spot on. We're finally moving beyond models that only do visual inference.
Precisely. It's a foundational leap. We're talking about a truly multimodal understanding of reality. The system isn't just rendering pixels based on what it thinks it should see anymore.
It's inferring the sound at the same time.
It's inferring and generating the sound while it renders the visuals. It's connecting sight and sound right from the ground up.
Okay, so for our analysis today, what's our mission? We're taking a close look at the source material on Kling 2.6. We're going to unpack the architecture behind this native audio feature, break down the economy of it all, because this power is expensive.
Very.
And most importantly for you listening, we're laying out the prompt engineering blueprints you need to actually master this thing.
It's time to learn how to direct the microphone, not just the camera. Let's get into this shift.
So when you first hear AI video generating sound, your mind probably goes straight to lip syncing. Right, we've had that for a while. But the articles make a really critical distinction between that and Kling's native audio. Can you break that down?
I can, yeah. So traditional lip syncing, the older way, is basically retrofitting. You feed the model an audio file that you already have.
Right, a pre-existing track.
Exactly. And then the model just warps the pixels on the screen to try and match that sound. It's an adjustment made after the fact. Native audio is a total architectural change. The model creates the audio waveform and the video pixel stream simultaneously.
At the same time.
From the very first moment of inference, they are born as one holistic output. So synchronization isn't something you're trying to achieve later, it's just inherent to the process.
So the model actually has a contextual understanding of the world. It knows that if a dog opens its mouth, it needs to generate a bark.
Not only that, it goes deeper into acoustic physics. The source material points out that the system understands a distant car looks smaller, so it also needs to sound acoustically distant.
As opposed to a car right up close to the camera.
Which would need intense proximate audio. It's this integrated spatial and contextual awareness that's so new.
Now, this is what makes Kling 2.6 a real landmark. I mean, we've all seen the research demos from Sora and Google's VO, and they're dazzling. But they're ghosts themselves. Brilliant, but you can't use them.
And that's the key here. While those models set a really high technical bar, Kling 2.6 is pushing its default resolution to native 1080p, putting it right in that same competitive space.
But you can use it right now.
But you can use it right now through a standard web interface. In the generative world, the best ability is availability, and Kling has it today.
Which means for any serious creator listening, the stakes are suddenly very high. You aren't just directing camera angles anymore, you're directing a microphone.
And to do that, you have to understand the coordination. You know, in those old pipelines you mentioned, audio and video were like two strangers meeting in post. Now, the sources describe them as siblings. They're linked by this unified inference engine.
And that baked-in sync is everything. Could you give us a more physical example of that coordination?
Sure. Think about expressive movement. If you prompt a character to, say, pause and think, the audio track automatically inserts a natural pause in their speech.
Okay, that makes sense.
But where it gets really impressive is the kinetic link. If you prompt that character to scream in terror, the model doesn't just open the mouth wide. The facial muscles, the tension around the eyes, the strain in the neck, it all tenses up to match the acoustic intensity of that scream.
Wow. So it's not just lip movement, it's full facial kinetics driven by the vocal output.
It is.
Okay, this is where it gets really interesting for the prompt engineers out there. The semantic understanding is not just recognizing sound, it's understanding the meaning of the sound.
Absolutely. The source material has a great example for this. If you prompt for a whispered secret, the model doesn't just see whispering as a technical command to lower the audio gain.
Right, it understands the context.
Ugh.
Whispering implies intimacy, closeness.
Exactly. So the model holistically adjusts the camera angle, it pulls it in closer, it often softens the lighting, all to match the confidential mood implied by that one word.
So it's translating the semantic context of a single word into three different outputs: audio, facial kinetics, and cinematic style.
That's the director's mindset. And you have two main ways to do this. Text to video, creating a world from scratch, and image to video, which is amazing if you have like a product shot or a mid-journey character you want to bring to life.
Before we get into mastering the prompt, we have to talk about the reality check, the compute.
Yeah.
Power like this, with simultaneous audio and 1080p, it's obviously not cheap.
No, we have to be transparent about the cost. This process requires significantly more GPU inference time. You're basically running two complex neural nets in perfect lockstep. It's a premium feature, and the credit burn rate reflects that.
How big of a difference are we talking? Could you give us a concrete breakdown from the sources?
A standard 5-second silent clip on an older model might cost you, let's say, 8 to 10 credits. A high-quality Kling 2.6 generation with native audio and 1080p. It can cost several times that depending on the scene's complexity. You're paying for that sync and that definition.
So if the credit burn is that fast,
Yeah.
does that create a barrier to entry? Are we sort of seeing a return to the old studio model where only funded teams can afford to experiment enough to get good?
That's a very sharp point. While the free tier lets you learn the basics, that high burn rate absolutely favors the professional user. For an individual creator, the learning curve has a direct financial cost attached.
So let's run through those access tiers for anyone listening.
The plans are pretty straightforward. The standard tier is about $10 a month for 660 credits. That's for the hobbyists, the curious.
Yeah.
But most serious content creators will probably need the pro tier. That jumps to about $35 for $3,000 credits.
And for production houses?
They have a premier tier, which is around $92 a month for 8,000 credits. That's for high volume work.
What about the free credits? What's the reality there?
You get about 66 free credits a day. And they're great for learning the syntax. But the sources are clear. Free tier users are deprioritized in the queue, so you wait longer, and your videos will have a big watermark. They're really just for testing.
Let's walk through how to actually turn this on, because it isn't automatic.
Right. It's a two-step process you have to remember. First, you have to select the 2.6 model tag in the interface. Second, there's a separate switch, the native audio toggle. You have to manually flip that on.
You forget, you just get a really nice but silent 1080p video.
Exactly.
Okay, and here's the pro tip from the material that I found really essential about temporal pacing. Why should users pay more for a 10-second clip instead of the standard 5 seconds?
Because 5 seconds is almost never enough time for a natural human interaction. Think about it. You need to take a breath, show an emotion, speak a full sentence, and then react. Choosing 10 seconds gives the model the runway it needs to resolve the phones and the facial movements smoothly. It results in a much less jerky, much more convincing clip. It's an investment in realism.
That makes total sense. Okay, now to the core of this, prompt mastery.
Yeah.
You can't just write "a woman talks."
You can't. You need that director's mindset. A successful Kling 2.6 prompt, based on the articles, has to have 5 key elements: scene, character action, dialogue, and, critically, tone. If you leave out tone or dialogue, you're losing the entire point of the feature.
Right. And this brings us to the trigger word library. How does that work?
The model was trained on millions of hours of captioned video, so through that process, it associated specific verbs and adverbs with distinct audio patterns and visual kinetics.
So using those specific trigger words basically forces the model to load the right audio weights.
That's it. You're essentially taking control of the voice actor and the soundstage.
Give us some examples of those triggers. How do we direct the voice itself?
You can direct volume, pace, and quality. For volume, use words like whispering, shouting, or mumbling. That adjusts the audio gain, but also generates the right facial intensity.
Okay, and pace.
For pace, use modifiers like fast talking or a slow drawl. That directly changes the lip sync speed. And for quality, you'd use descriptors like hoarse, deep voice, or breathy.
So let's apply this. The source material details a beauty influencer prompt that shows how to bind a specific voice to a visual. What was that structure?
Yeah, that case study was great because it created such a tight coupling. It started with the visual. A medium shot of a Caucasian beauty influencer raising a matte, dusty rose lipstick. Then it immediately assigned the voice persona before the dialogue.
So the order matters.
It does. It said, the influencer, using a sweet and fresh voice, says, this rose tone is revolutionary. That explicit tagging binds the voice to the avatar perfectly.
That's crucial. What about separating speech from sound effects? The intense sports moment prompt was a good example of that.
That one successfully created two distinct audio layers. The user asked for a specific commentary voice. Narrator, highly excited male voice. But then they added specific modifiers for the environment. SFX, the metallic screech of tires and the deafening roar of engines.
So it knew to generate two tracks, a clear voiceover and a chaotic soundscape.
And it kept them from bleeding into each other.
And lastly, timing. Controlling the gap between two speakers, which is always a nightmare in post. How does 2.6 handle that?
The multi-character interview prompt gave us the key. If you have one person speak and you want an instant reply, you use the modifier. Immediately, woman, confident voice says. That one word immediately controls the temporal gap and simulates a natural back-and-forth conversation.
These are really actionable insights. But, even with a powerful model, people are going to run into problems. So for someone jumping in today, what are the most common failures and their fixes?
We saw three major ones in the sources. The first is the studio sound bias.
Right, the classic problem. The video shows a war zone, but the character sounds like they're in a padded recording booth.
Exactly. The model defaults to clean audio, so the fix is to prompt for audio dirt. You have to tell it to get messy. Add phrases like background wind noise, street ambience, or heavy echo right into your prompt.
Okay, problem 2. The distracting AI zoom that seems to plague every generative video model.
That happens because the model thinks it needs to add a little movement for dynamism. The fix is simple. Use control prompts, add static camera, tripod shot, or fixed lens to your negative prompt, and it will lock the camera down.
And finally, the lip sync desync we talked about.
Which almost always happens in short 5-second clips because there isn't enough time to resolve the phonemes. The fix is just to switch to 10-second generation. That gives the system the space it needs and solves most desync issues right away.
So if we step back and look at the whole competitive landscape again, where does Kling 2.6 really sit right now?
It has a clear first-mover advantage. Compared to Sora and Veo, the conclusion is the same. Availability is the best ability. You can use Kling today.
And versus open source.
Versus something like Wan, Kling just offers superior convenience. You're paying for the value of not having to manage your own GPU cluster or troubleshoot Python scripts. You're paying for a streamlined interface that works.
So let's give the listener the honest final verdict from the material, the undeniable pros and the unavoidable cons.
The pros are clear. Best-in-class lip sync for any public model, true native 1080p, and a really intuitive interface. The cons, though, are significant. The cost is high, credits burn fast, you still get occasional audio hallucinations, gibberish, or language switching.
And character consistency is still a challenge.
And maintaining perfect face consistency across multiple clips is still the holy grail. It's improving, but it's not solved.
So the picture is professional-grade power, but at a professional price.
Absolutely. Kling 2.6 has crossed the barrier from moving images to true video. For a serious creator or a small production studio, the time you save by cutting out post-production audio work could make the system more than worth it.
So the advice is use those free credits to test the trigger words and the 5-element prompt structure. If you get good results, then the pro tiers are a viable option.
The silent film era is officially over. And hey, if you're looking for an incentive, there's a bonus opportunity. Kling is running an audio challenge right now. They're offering cash rewards up to $1,000 and big credit bundles for the best content made with this new feature.
Oh, wow.
The deadline is December 16th, 2025. You can literally get paid to learn the system.
That's a great motivator.
And if we just bring this back to the big picture, this whole architectural shift, it raises a really powerful question for all of us. What does it mean for storytelling when the AI automatically understands the emotional difference, the semantic context between a quiet whisper and a desperate shout?
How does that redefine the role of the human director?
Exactly. When the machine seamlessly integrates sight and sound, what do we do?
It sounds like we're moving from just generating frames to actually directing a performance. That's a powerful thought to end on.
Indeed.
Thank you for guiding us through this major shift and giving us the blueprints to master it. We'll catch you next time for our next look at the tech landscape.